We're here with Steve Adler, who is running for mayor of Austin. Thank you for being here with us, Steve.
Brandy, it's great to be here. Thank you. And thank you for doing this project.
You're welcome. So let's start off with just your big vision. Like, you stepped into this race, you didn't have a sort of political background, at the state you did, but locally. Tell the voters why you want to be mayor.
You know, I've lived in Austin for 36 years, and I love this city. I'm concerned about the city. I think Austin is at a tipping point. I think we have to actually do long-term planning and execute long-term plans, or we're going to lose what makes Austin special. Mm-hmm. And I think we're right at that place where we need to act differently than we've done in the past. And that's all happening at the same time that we're setting up a whole new government structure. So we have a once-in-a-generation opportunity to remake government culture at the same time that we have to do a better job with the challenges we've been facing and just haven't solved. And I think the upside potential is huge, and I want to be part of that.
All right. So looking forward to the next 5 years, what is your greatest hope when it comes to the environment?
You know, my greatest hope when it comes to the environment is that we move to an ever-increasing degree to a sustainable, renewable place, that we minimize the carbon footprint that we have, and quite frankly, in a very real sense, that we go through the next 5 years without having to commit to buying water supplies east of Austin in the Wilcox Aquifer, and have to pay for a conveyance system for water. I think that is one of the largest looming risks that we have, and we will have done well.
So let's start with that. How would you provide leadership in that category in terms of managing our water?
I think we need to do a much better job with conservation, and especially with reuse. We have to buy enough time for Mother Nature to fill the lakes. You know, it's disheartening to see that Austin reuses 3% of its water, and San Antonio reuses 36% of its water, with capacity to 60%. And
how are we going to build that infrastructure?
well, in part, we have a lot of that infrastructure that's built right now. We have the purple pipe system that goes to the University of Texas and to the state, but they barely hook into it because they have the wrong color PVC pipe on campus and on the Capitol grounds. And it's our ordinances that are stopping that greater use of water, and we need to change that.
And we've got a lot of leaking pipes too. How would you propose we address that?
We have leaking pipes not only within the public system, but we have leaky pipes that are on the consumer side of the system. What I have not seen is what the cost-benefit analysis is of those two different universes. We've done a lot, I think, to replace old pipes. We certainly have lots more old pipes to replace. I've heard that our water loss from pipes external to homes in the system is about 10%. If you look at other cities, once you start trying to prevent water leakage beyond that, it becomes real expensive. But we lose a lot of water in homes. We lose a lot of water, and there's more we could be doing there. And it may be that it's more cost effective and actually saves and protects more water to focus there. I don't know. I'd like to see that analysis.
Catchment and gray water.
We should be doing a lot more than that, and I think that's the trend for this city, probably other cities as well. We need to change the business model of our water utilities so that we're not dependent on selling more and more water, so that we don't have a conflict of interest within ourselves in terms of our business model. We need to fix that.
Okay. Will the plane go over? Well, let's just take it to transportation since the plane flew over. This is one of the biggest concerns of Austinites, is how we're going to be able to move ourselves around, especially as our population possibly doubles again. How should we be approaching that?
Well, and that is a concern too. We're going to go from 2 million people in the metropolitan area to 4 million people. Makes you wonder how everybody moves around. If we keep sending 10, 15, 20% of our population by and through downtown, we're going to be walking on top of cars.
Right.
So Texas A&M Transportation Institute looks at that situation, says if we build everything on the 2035 Campo plan, and we can't build everything on that plan because it would cost, what, $30 billion to do. But if we did everything on that wish list for the year 2035, they say that the drive time between downtown Austin and Round Rock will be 3 hours.
So that's not adequate. What are we going to do?
Well, it means we can't build our way out of it. We can't buy our way out of it. We obviously have to do infrastructure changes. I can't imagine Austin at that point in time that doesn't have an integrated intermodal system that includes rail and transit and trails and everything. But at a real basic level, this is a land planning question. It's a question about how we live and where we live. And we're not spending the time I think we need to on that side of the equation. We need another downtown urban type area that gives people a choice about traveling to the downtown area that we have now. And it would also impact affordability. We need to do a lot more immediately with respect to staggered work hours. We could make a dramatic impact if we could get the university and the state and the county government, city government, and just a few major employers to seriously do that. If we did more telecommuting, Boulder, Colorado telecommutes at twice the rate almost that the city of Austin does. And this is a city that's going to have 3 1 gigabyte speed systems here, and it's Austin, Texas. We should be leading the country in that, and we're not.
All right, so you touched on land use planning. Our new Imagine Austin plan is being turned into code at this time. Are you paying attention to that, or how do you think that needs to be guided so that we can have better land use and transportation solutions?
I think Code Next is probably one of the most important things that the city is going to be doing over the next couple of years. I think it is huge because I think so many things are dependent on how that's done. So I have been following that, and quite frankly, as mayor, it would be one of the things that I would want to be focused on intimately. I think that process needs the leadership coming from the mayor's office to ensure that at the end of the process, it actually has some greater measure of community consent and consensus and unanimity, and it can translate better into being the vision that the city collectively moves towards. So I would anticipate being involved in that. It needs to happen more quickly than the process is moving now.
Right.
We need an advisory board that greater reflects the stakeholders involved in the process so that more communities have faith in and buy-in into that process. I think it's huge.
I think there's a natural tension right now between the sort of stated goals of Imagine Austin, which are compact and connected as one of the sort of catch-all phrases, and then maintaining the green infrastructure. How do you propose that we, if you put more buildings in the same space, you can have fewer trees and other things like that? How are we going to figure that out as we're moving forward?
I think as part of this process, you start figuring that out. I don't accept that that's a forced choice, that either the city grows or the city preserves and its environment and creates legacy opportunities for the city. I don't think that's a forced choice. And I think that people are afraid on both sides.
Right.
When I say both sides, there are probably 10 sides.
Yeah, right, the many sides.
On each of the 10 sides. People are afraid of all the worst possible cases, and I just don't think that we have to make sure that they don't happen.
Right. I think one thing I've heard a lot of concern about is the protection of the heritage tree ordinance. And what do you think we should, is there a line in the sand, or how do we handle that going forward?
I think there's a huge difference between a heritage tree and adding up aggregate
All the tree canopy.
Diameters and caliper inches of trees. I mean, there's a difference. And I think that we need to recognize that difference in how we plan.
Okay. Energy. We've had some recent decisions by council to move towards more renewable energy, and I believe you're supportive of that. Say more about where you think we should be getting our energy or not getting energy, and how you provide leadership on that.
I think it again relates to business plans. I'm just as with water, I'm not convinced that, and in fact, I don't believe that the business model we have for Austin Energy is a business model that survives the
Right.
next 8 or 10 years. Because again, with distributed power, we're not going to be selling as much power. People are going to put solar panels on their homes, and when it starts ending up on commercial buildings, the energy company of the future is selling distribution, and probably like the PEC started, it's financing energy efficient projects and also
Right.
distributive abilities. But bottom line, we set our renewable goals in the mid 30% range, which is as much as anybody aspires to in any city that is based on a generation plan on fossil fuels. In order for us to get past that, we have to adopt a different risk model. And I think we should be adopting a different risk model so that we're not just weighing the risks of dispatchability as we do now with those fossil fuel
What else
sources.
should we consider?
Well, you move to the renewables, and there's a different kind of risk that's presented there. It's how well can you predict wind patterns 7 days out, or 2 days out, or 14 days out, or temperatures, or sun. How well can you predict those things? And there's risk associated with that. But as technology is getting better, those risks are coming down. We're getting better at being able to predict those things, and
Right.
and the risks associated with fossil fuels in terms of natural gas prices or mechanical problems are risks that are not coming down. In fact, in some ways, they have the potential to be even more and more volatile. So Austin needs to be the leader in the world in trying to change the risks patterns that we look at.
Okay. So just touch on the mix. Where are you stand on nuclear?
We need to move away from nuclear, and we need to move away from coal, and we need to move away from natural gas.
Okay.
I think that all of those things, they're fossil fuel based, and they fit within the old energy paradigm. And as
Right.
technology changes, that gives us the freedom, but also the ability to be able to move in a new direction, and that's where we need to be pointed.
Okay. Zero waste. We haven't touched on that yet. The zero waste master plan has been adopted. What do you see is going on with that, and how would you provide leadership to make sure that we achieve our goals? Because we're a little bit behind the curve on that right now.
I think zero waste is an important goal, especially for this city to have. It becomes more and more expensive as you get closer and closer to the zero waste goal. But I think we need to keep pushing for that. A lot of that is consumer education, and there's a lot the city can be doing with that. There are methods and avenues that are available to people, and in some respects, we're doing better with respect to the recycling and the diligent and careful recycling that people in Austin do, which ultimately makes the recycling and the processing more cost effective, which enables us to do more. We're bringing more and more people online as we go from single family homes and start moving to multi-family environment. We're not guaranteed we're going to have the same participation, the same kind of diligent participation there.
Right.
And we have to guard against that, because that's going to impact the cost effectiveness of the plans that we do. But we should, and I think the city has a huge role in terms of educating the people in the community, and certainly the mayor, I think, has the power to help set community agenda and community values, and we need to do that.
So you said one thing on your questionnaire I wanted to point out, and you can read more about Steve's answers to all the different environmental questionnaires on austineconetwork.com. Very thoughtful answers here. But one that was interesting: help support and empower the environmental community and stakeholders to be even more proactive and involved force in the future of Austin. Is that how would you implement that, or how would that become part of your process as mayor?
Well, I begin with saying that I think that is one of the most important environmental functions that I think the mayor, certainly in this new 10-1 system, has. It's real important that all of the stakeholders are at the table, and certainly the environmental community, because so many things obviously impact the environment. And we need to make sure that the environmental community is not coming into conversations after the conversations have already moved far down the road. It's important that the input of the environmental community is at the beginning of those conversations.
Right.
It's easier to change direction at the beginning than it is at the end.
Great. Well, thank you for being part of this conversation.
Well,
Thanks for being here,
so
Steve.
much. Thanks. I enjoyed being here. And again,
Absolutely.
this is a wonderful project you're doing. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.